Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville is still, as we've talked about, holding up hundreds of military promotions in protest of his stance on the Defense Department's stance on abortion. And it's outrageous what he's doing. It is affecting the military readiness of our country. And that was called out during a recent interview on CNN by the Secretary of the Navy, saying he is aiding and abetting our enemies. Take a look at this, then we'll get to Tommy Tuberville's response.
I'm forgiving for someone who's born in a communist country. I would have never imagined that actually one of our own senators would actually be aiding and abetting communist and other autocratic regimes around the world. This is having a real negative impact and will continue to have a real negative impact on our combat readiness. And that's what the American people truly need to understand.
And Tuberville's whole thing here is just in service of a political stunt so that he can prove he's the most anti-choice and the most against the Defense Department's handling of military members' abortions. It's ridiculous. And then I have for you John Kirby, who, forgetting his exact title, but on the communications side of the National Security Council. And he was asked during a recent CNN segment about Tuberville's response to what you just saw there. So you'll see Tommy Tuberville's response to what Carlos Del Toro said there, the Secretary of the Navy, about him. Then you'll get John Kirby's response to that.
Firm to go ahead and take additional positions. The Navy Secretary just told our Jake Tapper that the hold aids and abets U.S. adversaries, namely China. Tuberville just responded. Listen to this.
I'm disappointed that a secretary would say that about a senator. And he sat in this very office when he was going up for confirmation himself. And you know, just makes you feel bad that we got leaders in the country like that. Because as I just told you, if I thought it was hurting readiness, I wouldn't be doing this, but it's not. It's concerning.
So, of course, he's then saying he knows better than the actual military leaders themselves on if this is hurting military readiness or not, which obviously holding up promotions, holding up people being put in the correct positions and locked in and having their leadership formally begin in that position. Of course, that would be not good for military readiness and the functioning of our military, but he knows better than the Secretary of the Navy.
That you got people that are in secretary positions like that would say something like that in our country instead of getting on the phone and calling me.
What's your reaction to what the senator said?
Well, my best advice to the senators, if you don't like being criticized for this outrageous effort to hold up these promotions and advancements, then lift your hold. If it bothers you that we're publicly talking about the impacts it's having, and it is having an impact, then just lift the hold.
And it also has to be noted that how long have we heard Republicans say they're the most pro-military, they're the most concerned with military readiness, they're the most concerned with having a strong, effective military, correct leaders in the correct places, etc., etc. But now, because of his opposition to the military's handling of individuals' abortions, he's willing to throw that all out the window. And as military leaders are shouting, this is hurting our military readiness, this is damaging the functioning of our military, he says, nah, if I thought it was doing that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, but I don't think it's doing that, even though he's being told that it is. And it's a contradiction of the principle that people like Tommy Tuberville purport to stand for. Now, if he doesn't understand how this hurts military readiness, a Pentagon spokesperson explained it in very simple terms for him.
It seems like obviously we're still at such a standstill. What's the solution here? What's the next step?
Yeah. Well, really, I mean, I would refer you to the Senate, to the Congress, to answer that question. You know, I've been asked before to try to put this into context in terms of why does this matter? And, you know, with football season starting, I would say imagine going into the football season with a bunch of acting coaches for each of our teams, with a regulation that limits any of those acting coaches from presuming that he or she was actually going to officially lead the team. And those acting coaches who come up through the organization are now responsible for not only being the offensive and defensive coordinators, but also acting as the head coach. And so in the short term, they're likely going to make things happen because that's what good leaders do. But what happens when performance on the field becomes impacted?
So for a former football coach, Tommy Tuberville, that should be a good analogy to get his head around. One last thing on this, I saw that he went on Laura Ingram's show on Fox News to continue to justify what he's doing. And once again, wanted to contextualize this. I'm not just protesting the Defense Department's stance on abortion. I'm also protesting woke.
There's no second place in war, okay? We have to have the best. And right now, we are so woke in the military, we're losing recruits right and left. Secretary Del Toro over the Navy, he needs to get to building ships. He needs to get to recruiting, and he needs to get wokeness out of our Navy. We've got people doing poems on aircraft carriers over the loudspeaker. It is absolutely insane of the direction that we're headed in our military, and we're headed downhill, not uphill.
I'm so sick of that talking point. It's the laziest talking point. It's a sign of someone's own inability to craft an actual argument. So instead it's just, I'm fighting back against woke, and that's why what I'm doing is okay. Now, of course, it's not true, as shown by the evidence he cited being a poem was read on a loudspeaker. Okay. But also, often people pushing that idea will say, we know that wokeness is harming our military because of our recruiting numbers, and recruiting is declining because people are afraid to join the woke military. Well, even with all of the propaganda saying our military has gone too woke, only 5% of respondents who were getting polled on why they're hesitant to join the military listed wokeness as an issue, compared with 13% who listed their belief that women and minorities will face discrimination and not get the same opportunities. So actually, based on that survey, going in a more woke direction, meaning trying to address the discrimination that minorities and women potentially face, would be better for recruitment. Flies in the face of what Tommy Tuberville is saying. And also, can you imagine a Democratic senator saying what you just heard Tommy Tuberville say there, minus the woke part, but saying our military is not strong, we don't have the best, and it's going in a really bad direction, I think was the wording that he used. They constantly proclaim themselves to be the most pro-military and patriotic, etc., etc., etc. But then, the second he perceives the military, which what does that even mean, to have gone too woke, they request people not to be racist. Oh my goodness, it's falling apart, America. Then all of a sudden, he's willing to say, our military is going in a horrible direction, we're not going to be the best military, and we're not strong, blah, blah, blah. Just violation of their own principle after violation of their own principle with this current batch of Republicans so consistently, and it's driving me nuts. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the bonus show on the weekends, you can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, and there's a link in the description.